Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. All right, guys, what will 2021 bring for the online business space? Today, I'm sharing with you 5 predictions I have for the new year as it relates to your online business. And I'm walking you through these really like trend predictions. And I'll also be sharing questions to ask yourself about each of these and tips along the way. It's going to be a really fun episode as we get closer to the new year. So let's dive in. All right, guys, I am really excited about this episode because 1, I feel pretty strongly about these predictions I'm about to share, and it's really fun thinking of them. And 2, I've never done an episode like this of like predictions and trends and stuff like that. But I love this stuff, and I tend to just naturally always be predicting things. I love predicting things. I love looking for trends, seeing where I think things are heading. And so I love the topic of thinking about like, okay, what has 2020 brought us? And what do I think 2021 will be like for the online business space? And how do we prepare for that? How do we make sure our businesses are up to speed? So it's going to be a really fun episode, nice, lighthearted, cool tips episode here. And real quick to start, I just want to say real fast, all of these opinions are my own. And of course, I'm making predictions, which means I have no idea if they'll actually will happen. And some of these predictions are based in current trends or a little bit of research. But the majority of these are just my literal observations as someone who owns an online business, someone who sells stuff online, who works with clients, all of that. And so I could be wrong, right? I say that to say, yeah, I could be wrong. We'll maybe listen back to this, at the end of 2021 and see how things went. But these are my 5 predictions I have specifically about the online business space for 2021. And so if you're listening to this episode later, you found this later into the year even, still listen to it. I think there will be something here for you. But yeah, I'm predicting this in early November, mid-November is when I'm recording this. And I also know this will air a little bit after the time I'm recording it. And I'm sure I will think of even more trends to share besides these 5. I had a couple more ideas for what to share, but I narrowed it down to these 5, and maybe I'll share a few more over on Instagram when this airs if I've thought of some others. So be sure to be following me there. I'm at Elizabeth McCravey, but I'll share some more there. So, okay, let's just dive into it. So I'm going to start with my first prediction. All right, prediction number 1, the traditional webinar will have to change in order to continue to work. So let's talk about webinars. So webinars are a staple of online business. So you probably know what I'm talking about if you own an online business when I say webinar, because even if you've never done one, you've probably attended one. And sometimes they have other names, like people call them a masterclass or free training and things like that, but it's all still like that same category of webinars. And although there is such a thing as a free no pitch webinar, I know some people who make that a staple of theirs, kind of like I do with a podcast of like it's no pitch, just free content. Some people do that same model with webinars. I actually did one of those with Dubsado this year that I ended up airing on the podcast. So you can go find that. I'll link to it in the show notes of which episode that was if you want to hear it. But that was a free no pitch webinar that I did as like a partner of theirs. So the majority of webinars though are not that type. The majority of them are for the purpose of selling something online. Typically we see this most with online courses. And when webinars were newer, the people doing them were doing something cool and new and fresh, and we didn't really know what's a webinar. Oh, a free class, a free training, a masterclass. So interesting, right? And getting to watch someone you follow teach you something live for fun with other people watching for like an hour is really cool, right? And so I think it worked better years ago, even possibly like last year, worked better than it does now. But I think now the traditional webinar is getting stale. And I know some people might totally disagree with me on that. And that's where I want to bring us back to what I said at the beginning of this episode, that these are just my opinions as someone who owns an online business and what I'm observing from chatter among other people and also my own experiences. But I think a lot of the people who they teach, here's how to do webinars well, are teaching based on what worked maybe 3 to 5 years ago, but doesn't work as much anymore because too many people have been burnt by bad webinars. They were sold on oh, I love that title. Oh, that's so engaging. I really want to learn those 6 things to get to 6 figures or whatever it is, right? They want to learn it and that's exactly what they need. And then they go to the webinar and it's actually some person who introduces themselves for the first 20 minutes, then overviews what they're going to talk about in the webinar. And then they teach some stuff that is all what content, not how content. So it's not really teaching you how to do the thing. It's teaching you what you need. And then they sell you the course at the end, right? And there's some special offer that you get if you buy during the webinar. And so people got used to that. And then there's also some who do that model who I'm sure are incredible webinars, right? But then some that people have got burnt by and disappointed by, and it doesn't work for that particular person anymore. And I think there's enough people out there who just don't want to watch webinars because of this. I also think with webinars, another reason I think they'll need to change in order to convert, which is kind of going back to, that's why I said that's the title of this prediction, that the traditional webinars will have to change in order to continue to work. I think another reason for that, though, is because people are getting kind of over it, quote unquote, of the softwares that make it seem like it's a live webinar when it's actually a recorded webinar. So I'll actually end up talking about this more in my 4th prediction, but basically, those softwares that do I get on someone's email list and then it's do you want to go to this free class? The options are 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, and 6. And then some consumers at one point might have thought, oh, that person really is doing 3 webinars every single day, when really they're not. It's just a software to make you feel like it's live when it's actually pre-recorded. And sometimes the webinars will even sound pre-recorded in the way the person's talking, or maybe it was recorded live at one point. But people know, you're not always just doing 3 webinars a day all day long. So I think something we might need to see a change in here is just letting people watch it when they opt in and letting them know this was recorded live a month ago and it's not live anymore, but still awesome. I think people are just over basically the templated webinars that just follow that same exact model over and over again, and then false advertising of the webinar saying it's live when it's actually pre-recorded. So I don't think webinars are going away. I want to emphasize that. If you've kind of been in and out of me so far, don't hear me say that I think webinars are going away, because I really don't think that. But I do think that the webinar model that we're used to will have to change and be innovated to keep working for your business in 2021, because people are weary of webinars. I know personally, I don't really love watching webinars because I've been burned by some bad ones or irritated when it's pretending to be live and I'm I know it's not live. It's just, it kind of hurts the trust factor with the person leading it. So kind of thinking about this, summing this tip up, what to do with this prediction. If you're someone who does live webinars and maybe they're not converting the way you hope they would, see what you can do to make it better and break the model that we're all used to with webinars. Maybe break away from some of the things that you don't like when you attend a webinar. Maybe listen to feedback from people who didn't buy. Ask, why didn't you buy? What didn't you like about this? And if you're someone who has a bunch of evergreen webinars that aren't converting well, consider how you could maybe make them be more honest about being pre-recorded, or update them even. Maybe they literally have gotten stale. If your webinars don't acknowledge everything that's happened this year in 2020, they're probably going to feel stale to the person watching it. So anyway, that's my first big tip / prediction. I think webinars will have to change in order to continue to work. And I also think, to kind of go alongside that, we're going to see growth in other ways to sell things online besides webinars. So there you have it. First thing, webinars will have to change in order to continue to work. So again, you guys, take these predictions however you think of them, but try to analyze that in your own business. Okay, the second prediction, I really love this one. I think you are too. So my prediction is that the online course industry will have growth like never before. in 2021. Big, bold statement there. But this prediction really excites me because I love online courses, and I'm actually launching one in the new year. So it's obviously going to be especially exciting to me that I'm like noticing this. But if you were ever just to sit down with me, some of my friends can tell you this, and talk about the traditional college education system. I have so many thoughts on where the education system is headed for years. Like I've had thoughts about this that I talk about with people. And a lot of those thoughts I've had have been confirmed so far in 2020 because of COVID. And I'm not going to get into all those thoughts right now, but I will say it's just so fascinating that right now our standard education system, literally for the majority of places, elementary, middle, high school, all the way through college and graduate school, is online, which is absolutely insane. No one could have predicted that. I hate personally that's all online. Like I know, especially thinking about kids in school, like there's so much importance in being in person, but we're in a weird place now. So traditionally, when someone's considering where to go to school, for again, talking about graduate and undergrad, they might think, I want to do a degree at this specific university in person because it's going to be a different, better experience than a random online university. We are comparing online universities to in-person universities. But now with everything being online this year, most college universities are doing online. I think we're going to see a trend towards online education, specifically for types of degrees that do not require accreditation. So I'm not talking about like nurses, doctors, lawyers, accountants, anything where there's like counseling, even stuff where there's accreditations involved, but things that are not degree driven. I think we'll see more people ditch the traditional university experience in favor of online courses. So I'm not just saying like online universities, but even going as far as online courses. And again, that does not apply to every kind of industry, but I think it will apply to some. And some of you might think I'm crazy for saying that. I still love you either way, but I think this trend has been true for years, especially for people who are doing a later in life career shift. They don't want to go back necessarily to a traditional college to do that degree change. If it's something that does not require a degree to change careers, they might be doing online courses. And I think it'll be common even more now, though, for people who are right out of high school entering the workforce to choose online courses over a traditional college experience. So just as a quick example to kind of explain, if you're like, I still think that doesn't make sense at all. As an example, if you wanted to be a photographer, there is no reason whatsoever to pay thousands upon thousands, right, to go to a traditional college and get a degree in photography. There are tons of online courses that teach you not only how to work the camera, but also how to run a photography business. And you could buy like 15, 20 courses that are all really expensive and still pay less money than you would for the undergrad degree in photography. And for those of us in the online space, we've always really known that courses are a big thing. But I know this for having so many friends who are not online business owners. Like most people are like, wait, what's an online course? Like, what do you mean by that? Is like a common question I get when I say I'm making a course. It's like people don't really understand what it is. But to some of us, it's like courses are like, oh, of course, a course on that. I might buy a course on that. It's just common language. But I think for people who are not in the online business space, who are making career shifts or just getting started in college, are going to become more familiar with the online course space because they'll save money even on the most expensive of courses compared to the online or in-person traditional college experience. And they'll be able to do it from home the same as they would a university. So again, I see this for fields like graphic design, photography, videography, marketing, advertising, different types of coaching and personal training, all of that. And, I take some of this thought as well from the fact that my husband's in graduate school right now to become a counselor. And he is actually at a traditional university, but it's all online. And that reason I kind of said before, people thinking I need to do in person, it's going to be a better degree, a better experience. That's definitely what we thought with choosing this like traditional university for him. And, it might still be a better degree compared to like an online university, but he's doing everything completely over Zoom. And it's very likely that his entire degree will be done this way. And, he is going into one of the types of fields, like I said, that does require a degree and accreditation and years of graduate school, all of that. But a cool thing that it like reminds me again of people who are not used to online courses kind of getting into it, but he is going to be taking some online courses from a counseling practice while he's in college, just to really get more training to be even better as a counselor. But like he was showing me the sales pages for these online courses he's wanting to take, and they are courses meant for people not in the online business space, but still following a lot of these same models we're used to, but more business to consumer versus business to business. So it's just really cool. And yeah, I love the online course industry. And so it makes me excited to like see this opportunity of more people learning through online courses. And again, I just want to emphasize, I do not think traditional colleges will be gone in 2021. Not at all. And I hope that they don't ever go away, to be honest, but I do think we'll see a surge of online course growth and room for even more courses right now that might closely mirror a traditional college class. So if that's something that makes sense for you to be the person teaching, like consider, is an online course something that could make sense for your business in the new year? Is there something you know how to do that you could teach, thinking business to consumer, even business to business, all of it? So yeah, that's my second prediction, that the online course industry will have growth like never before. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. All right, prediction number 3, even more of audio and video content taking over everything. And I'm going to talk about this one real briefly. I thought about not including this one at all because in reality, this one has already happened. Like this is what we saw in 2020. We saw this in 2019 as well. But the reason I'm including this is because some people are still trying to ignore this being a thing. And I do not want you guys who are regular podcast listeners to be someone ignoring this being a thing. And I think we'll also continue to see it even more. We've seen it for years, but I think there'll be more of it. So, as you know, you're listening to a podcast right now. Podcasting is huge. YouTube is huge. And obviously things like Reels and TikTok, I mean, those literally are from this year in terms of Reels started this year. I don't know when TikTok started, but it got big this year in 2020. We have things like Instagram TV, which is video driven. We have Facebook and Instagram Lives. All of it is video and audio content. And, thinking about Instagram even specifically, if you have the latest Instagram app update, you've probably seen now that in addition to having like the traditional, home feed, you scroll through their traditional post, there's now a Reels tab where it's literally only Reels. And then we have stories across the top like we've always had. And there's just such an emphasis on the video content, an emphasis on Reels, an emphasis on stories, still an emphasis on IGTV, like all of that, such an emphasis on video. And even when we think about traditional posts, so many of those now are often videos instead of just photos. So I include this to say, if you've resisted the video side of marketing or the audio content side of marketing for your business, I just want to encourage you to think about how can you add this in for your business in 2021. And if your thought when you hear me say that is like, Elizabeth, I do not want to do video, I do not want to do audio, I just like normal content, I kind of only like written content, maybe like try to figure out and get to the bottom of why it sounds so miserable to you and horrible and all of that, and maybe journal about it, figure it out, because that's something you want to figure out. And I do not think at all that you have to do every single thing. Like, I don't think you have to be on TikToks and Reels and making IGTVs all the time and all of that kind of stuff. I don't think you have to do it all, but I do think you need to take hold of where we're going with content and marketing wise, which is more audio and video content over just traditionally written and read content. And you gotta like stay with the time, so to speak, in that way. And I mean, again, like you've listened to this podcast about 18 minutes in, you clearly like podcasts. You like consuming audio content on the go. So kind of think about like, how can you leverage even just the things you can acknowledge in yourself within your own business? So again, we've seen a steady growth of video and audio content being huge. And I think we're just going to continue to see that even more in the new year. Okay, now let's move on to the fourth prediction. This one might seem a little unclear, but you'll get what I mean as I start talking through it. So basically, I predict more impatience when it comes to the customer experience overall, and just how we are as customers. And this relates so much to the other predictions I've already shared because they really are all connected to this one. But I think we'll see a greater trend towards the I want it now and I expect it immediately mentality from customers. And I think sometimes we hear that as online business owners and think, oh, that applies to the people who ship things are competing with Amazon. You know, we just think, oh, that's all about companies that ship stuff. And I don't think it's about just companies that ship stuff. I think it's about you as an online business owner as well. And it does all relate to Amazon. I think we can blame Amazon for it if we want to, but we live in a very instant gratification society, and we want to be able to buy something and it be delivered to us pretty quickly, and other things to be delivered quickly as well. And it really is crazy when I think about this, even in my own habits. But like, I can want to buy something and have it sent to me with Instacart, Amazon, so many different companies within just a few hours. Uber Eats. I mean, we don't even have to like go out to buy food anymore, and those kind of companies grew a lot with COVID because of people staying in and getting things delivered to themselves. But anyway, when we have a question, we Google it, we have an answer quickly. There's just so many things where like instant gratification plays a role. And these things create expectations in our mind that fall over into how we interact with everything, all types of businesses, people, all of it. And so I'm predicting more impatience around one thing, your website's load time. I mean, gosh, I think slow loading websites are going to have like almost no tolerance when we think about just the future of website design in general. And kind of going back to what we're saying here of like, if people don't have patience to wait for, their Amazon order to come in, quickly enough, they're not going to have patience to wait for your website to load really slow. Another thing, response time for customer support related stuff. If customer support is a piece of your business, I think we'll see people becoming more and more expectant of quick responses. Does that mean you have to turn your business into something that responds insanely quickly? No, but I just think knowing that that's an expectation possibly is something good to have in your mind, that like we're seeing this from other maybe larger companies, and that falls into your small business as well. Obviously, more impatience with shipping, more competitiveness for small business owners who ship stuff to be competing with that 2-day Prime delivery that Amazon has, which again, with Amazon, you guys, is so insane because 2-day is like the standard Prime delivery time. But if you live close to an Amazon warehouse, like I do in Nashville, there's so many things that will come to you within 2 hours. Like it's insane just for that normal Prime price, which again, like changes the way we expect things to be delivered. And then another one I would say here with more impatience around is the delivery of things that people are buying when it's even digital products, and just being able to purchase something and then dive into it quickly. So something you'd want to think about there when we think about that impatience is like, when people buy from you, how long does it take them? How easy are the steps to go from that confirmation page that their purchase was successful to utilizing the digital product? How can you make that more seamless and smooth because people are impatient with it? And again, I feel like an emphasis I want to make here, I kind of said this a moment ago, but I don't necessarily think that this impatient thing is a good thing. I actually think it's probably a bad thing. But I do think like there's no denying this. Like I thought about not sharing this one because it feels like, oh, that's a bummer to say like we all want instant gratification and things need to move faster. But I do think that's kind of where we are as a society, and it does bleed over into how we run our businesses, even online businesses. And, going back to my third point about audio and visual content being so big right now, that relates to this tip as well. Like audio and visual content is so big because people want information faster. They want to be able to learn, make decisions, all of it on the go quickly. And again, the impatience thing, it all relates. I think the same thing is true with what I was saying about webinars. Like people are impatient to wait for an actual watch time when they know it's just a pre-recorded webinar. So anyway, that's number 4, more impatient customers. And again, think about like, how can you leverage this information to change some stuff maybe within your own business processes for the new year? All right, guys, and now it is time for the 5th prediction. I want to throw out real fast. If you're enjoying this episode, please share it with another business friend who needs to think about preparing their business for 2021. Seriously, share it on your stories. Send a message to a friend, like a little text message with this episode. And also, I want to say as well, I'd love to hear from you and hear your trend predictions. Again, I'm recording this a while before you will hear it. I'm sure I'm going to think of even more, but than these 5 by the time this airs, but I'd love to hear your predictions. So share this episode in your stories, share which ones you predict as well, what other ones you would add, all of it. I want to hear from you. Okay, so the 5th one, the final prediction. So I think we will see a trend towards more discretion around who to trust in the online business space, and just more questions overall about who we're trusting. So the online space has a lot of like underground rules that we don't even realize we're following, like believing that if someone makes a lot of money, if they have a lot of followers, then they're immediately trustworthy. And you might even not realize that you've been operating, and maybe you aren't, but I think many of us have been taught to like operate under that notion without even realizing it. And in 2020, we saw that collapse a bit, and we've seen a lot of people go through the ringer this year. And if you use Instagram actively, then you probably did not miss this happening. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I saw this happen to people who I didn't even follow. Like I didn't even know who they were, and getting just a lot of issues in their business over a variety of different things. And a lot of it goes back to customers deciding they don't trust this person anymore. And so I think in 2021, we'll see more like thoughtful trust behind who we follow, who we buy from, instead of just trusting based on figures thrown around of how much money people make, how many followers people have, and things of that note. Kind of looking into what I said of like follower count being credibility. Like many of us trust that as a form of like more followers equals more credibility. But guys, this followers can be bought, and they are bought all the time. And I've noticed lately, so many businesses who have clearly purchased followers. And I share that right now because I want to say, do not do this. But they purchase followers, even just not even necessarily going from like 0 to 30K, but maybe from like 0 to 4,000 or something like that. And they think it's not easy to tell, but it is. And it hurts your credibility as a business owner, because when you have, say 5,000 followers, but you only got 10 likes on your photo that was posted 5 days ago, people know that it is bots, like literally robots, that follow you, because there's no real people there interacting with you. So just don't buy followers, guys. That's like a little quick tip right here. Do not buy into the idea that like you have to hit a certain follower number, however you can get there in order to have a successful business. But I think we're going to see more like lack of trust, less just like followers equal trust, like less of that and more like really looking into this business, their values, all of that kind of stuff. I think we're also going to kind of on this note of like more discretion around who to trust, more like thoughts, more looking into all the financial numbers we see so often thrown around in the online business space of people sharing, I own a multiple 7-figure business. What they really are talking about cumulative revenue over the last 10 years of their business. Just looking harder as consumers, because even though we're business owners, we're also consumers. I think we'll see people looking harder into these numbers, asking more questions, and hopefully a trend towards more honesty around financial numbers in our business. I plan to do a whole podcast episode about that. I shared about this a little bit on the episode, probably like 10 episodes back, the financial numbers you need to watch for in your business. I talk about that on here, but how so many people share dishonest marketing numbers and they might not even realize how dishonest it is, but they are doing it. And so I think we're going to see more of like this not being accepted anymore, more of like, hey, can you break that down for me as a question when someone shares, they run $1 million business. Like, can you explain what that means to you? Because you might be thinking different things, So I just think we'll see some of that. And basically like in 2020, we've seen a lot of questioning of people, a lot more like thought going into who we're buying from. And I think we're going to continue to see that. And that questioning will lead to more discretion about who people trust in order to learn from in their online business. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, you guys, on all 5 of these. That's the 5th one. And with that one in particular, even, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What other trends do you predict around that one? I really would love to hear from you guys on all these. So I'm going to recap them real quick. So the first prediction I made was that webinars will have to change in order to continue to convert for your business. Second prediction, online courses will just become like have a huge growth year basically for their reach and purchasing capabilities, all of that. Third prediction, audio and video content will become huge, even more so than it did in 2020. Number 4, that customers will become more and more impatient, just continuing on that of wanting things instantly. And the 5th one, that we'll see more discernment around who to trust in the online business space. So those are my predictions for 2021. And I'm ready for this new year. I'm sure you guys are as well. And I'm going to have some more episodes coming up around like a little bit more of goal setting, planning. I'm also going to do an episode that's like me recapping how my business year went in 2020. I had my biggest growth year ever this year, which feels so crazy to say, but I'll be doing an episode kind of breaking all of that down for you guys. So if you aren't subscribed, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss it. And I also want to say, if you're someone who's been like a loyal listener all year, first of all, thank you. Seriously appreciate you guys so much. I love every message, every review, all of it. But I want to just ask, if you're someone who regularly listens to this podcast, would you mind leaving a review on Apple Podcast? Leaving a review, a 5-star rating, writing something, and then, sharing with another friend who you think would benefit from the show. That means so much and really helps the show grow. So just wanted to throw that out there. But thank you guys. And again, can't wait to hear your thoughts. Tag me on Instagram at Elizabeth McCravey and let me know what you think. All right. Bye, you guys. Thank you for listening to the podcast this week, friend. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you about something. I would encourage you to check out my website template shop. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find Show It website templates, and they are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you book more clients and customers. Maybe your current website is really boring. I don't know, maybe it is, and maybe you don't want to hurt its feelings, but you know it's true. And your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers. And that's what these website templates do on MShop. These are pre-made website templates built for the Show It platform where you can plug and play your content into the template with ease and then get started with a website that is made to actually make you money. Isn't that what we all want, right? So go shop the templates at elizabethmccravey.com/shop. That link is also in the show notes. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate it if you left a rating and review for the show on Apple Podcasts, or even just share it with a friend. It's a great way to support the show and then give us your feedback. So thanks so much for listening.